Welcome to the Stoic Golden Tribe, where men come to find clarity, inner strength, and the truth society refuses to tell them. If you're a man who has loved deeply, sacrificed silently, and stayed loyal even when it hurt, this message is for you. Because today, we're uncovering one of the most hidden and misunderstood realities of modern relationships. Why 75% of men finally walk away after years, sometimes decades, of marriage. Men don't leave easily. Men don't give up without trying. Men don't abandon their families without carrying a heavy weight in their chest. A man's breaking point is never loud. It's slow, quiet, unseen. And by the time he walks out that door, he has already endured years of feeling dismissed, unheard, unvalued, or betrayed. This video is not about blaming women. It's about helping men understand their own experiences, their own pain, and the silent struggles most of them can't even put into words. And if you're a man watching this, I want you to know your suffering wasn't weakness. Your silence wasn't indifference. Your leaving wasn't selfish. Sometimes walking away is the only way to save the little piece of yourself you still have left. So sit back, breathe deeply, and listen. Because today we're breaking down the 6 real reasons men finally leave long marriages and why no one wants to talk about them. Chapter 1. When a man stops feeling respected. Every strong man can live without luxury, but no man can live without respect. Respect is the oxygen of a man's soul. Take it away, and even the strongest man eventually suffocates in silence. Most men don't divorce because of drama. They don't leave because they found someone else. They don't walk away because they're tired or confused. They leave because the one thing they needed the most slowly vanished: respect. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small, painful moments that build up over years. The criticism disguised as advice, the tone of voice that makes him feel small, the constant comparisons to other men, the lack of appreciation for everything he silently does, the dismissal of his feelings because he's a man, he'll be fine. At first, he ignores it. Men are trained to endure. He tells himself it's not a big deal. He tells himself she's just stressed. He tells himself to be patient, to keep giving, to keep holding the family together. But every time she speaks to him like a child instead of a partner, every time she mocks his dreams or downplays his efforts, every time she makes him feel like a problem instead of a protector, a piece of him dies. A man can survive financial loss. He can survive failure. He can survive disappointment. But no man survives feeling invisible, belittled, or emasculated by the woman he loved. Years pass, and he becomes quieter. He stops arguing, not because he agrees, but because he's exhausted. He stops trying to explain himself, because he knows she's not listening. He stops opening up, because his vulnerability has been used against him before. And one day, he wakes up and realizes something painful. He's still married, but he feels completely alone. That's when the thought begins. Soft at first, then louder. Maybe I deserve better than this. Maybe this isn't love anymore. Maybe leaving is the only way to protect my peace. Men don't leave because they are weak. Men leave because they have been strong for too long. If you're a man who has ever felt this, you're not the only one. Millions of men carry this silent pain every day. Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever felt disrespected in a relationship, even when you were giving your all? Chapter 2. When a man realizes he's been carrying the whole marriage alone. A man's life is built on responsibility. From the moment he becomes a husband, a father, a protector, he understands that his role is not optional. He carries the weight of expectations, the pressure to provide, and the unspoken duty to keep everything from falling apart. But there is a point where responsibility becomes burden, where loyalty becomes self-neglect, and where marriage becomes a one-sided battlefield. And this is one of the biggest reasons men walk away after many years. They get tired of carrying the entire relationship by themselves. The slow realization. At first, a man doesn't notice it. Men are trained from childhood to push through hardship. So when the relationship becomes unbalanced, he assumes, I just need to try harder. I need to be more patient. She's stressed, I should understand. She'll appreciate me one day. But over the years, the story changes. He notices he's always the one calming arguments. He's always the one fixing financial issues. He's always the one apologizing, even when he was the one disrespected. He's always the one planning the future, while she lives in the moment. He's always the one giving, while she takes without giving back. The emotional burnout. Men don't speak about their emotional fatigue. They don't announce when they're breaking. They don't express when they feel unsupported. A man just gets quieter. And in that silence, he starts observing the way she shows more appreciation to outsiders than to her own husband. The way she expects him to be strong, but never asks who holds him when he's weak. The way she demands help, attention, and effort, but doesn't offer the same in return. The way she sees his contributions as normal, but her contributions as sacrifices. Every day he pours energy into the marriage, but nothing flows back into him. And slowly something begins to fade. His excitement, his patience, his willingness to keep fighting, his belief that things will change, because a man can carry many things, but he cannot carry a full marriage alone. When responsibility becomes loneliness. There is a type of loneliness only men understand. Being emotionally alone while being physically present. He sits at the same table, sleeps in the same bed, lives in the same house, but feels like a stranger in his own marriage. No emotional support, no admiration, no feminine softness, no partnership, just responsibility, obligation, and endless expectations. This is the loneliness that destroys men silently, the breaking point. And then one day, after years of trying, enduring, sacrificing, giving, fixing, he wakes up and realizes, I'm not her partner, I'm her provider, I'm her problem solver, I'm her emotional punching bag, I'm her stability, but she is not mine. It's in that moment the thought enters his mind. If I leave, will anyone even notice how much I held together? And then the next realization hits harder. If I stay, who will save me? A man doesn't walk away because he is weak. He walks away because he has been strong, patient, loyal, and responsible for too long, without receiving anything in return. Eventually, he stops fighting for the marriage, and because he realizes he's the only one fighting at all. And when a man reaches that emotional threshold, leaving is no longer abandonment. It becomes self-preservation. Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever felt like you were carrying both your own weight and your partner's too? Chapter 3. When a man's peace is constantly disturbed. There comes a time in a man's life when he finally understands something powerful. Peace is not a luxury. Peace is survival. A man can live without many things, but he cannot live without peace in his own home. And one of the deepest reasons men walk away after years of marriage is simple but painful. Their home stops being a place of rest and becomes a place of tension, conflict, stress, and emotional exhaustion. The home that no longer feels like home. When a man comes home after a long day, he only wants 3 things: respect, warmth, peace, not perfection, not luxury, not endless demands, just peace. But many men live in marriages where the moment they walk through the door, their mind tenses, their chest tightens, their spirit collapses, because instead of peace, they find criticism waiting at the door, arguments over small things, emotional storms that never calm, a partner who brings chaos instead of comfort, a household environment full of negativity, tension, and pressure. And the worst part? No one sees the damage it does to him. Men don't vocalize emotional overload, they endure it. Until they can't, unlike women, men rarely speak about emotional overload. They don't go to friends and complain. They don't cry in public. They don't vent to family, they internalize, they absorb, they carry. But every day the marriage becomes more stressful, the man becomes more distant inside himself. When everything becomes a fight, a complaint, a comparison, a reminder of what he's not doing or what he's not giving, his spirit slowly shuts down. Men are not afraid of responsibility, but they are afraid of constant conflict. They are afraid of being the problem, no matter how hard they try. They are afraid of living in a home where their presence feels like a trigger instead of a blessing. There is a type of psychological exhaustion that only men know, the exhaustion of always being wrong, even when he's trying his best. A man needs a partner, not a prosecutor. A man can handle a woman who is emotional, but he cannot handle a woman who is constantly accusing, attacking, criticizing, comparing, punishing, starting arguments, never appreciating his effort, never acknowledging his sacrifices. Men don't leave because of one big fight. Men leave because they are tired of living in a war zone. A man wants a woman who brings calmness, not chaos. Who brings encouragement, not interrogation. Who brings softness, not sharpness. Women underestimate how far a peaceful, feminine presence can go. They underestimate how deeply men crave emotional warmth. They underestimate how painful it is for a man when his own home becomes the loudest place in his life. The breaking of a man's spirit. There is a silent breaking point every man hits when he realizes he feels more at peace outside the home than inside it. When his car feels more peaceful than his living room. When the gym feels safer than his bedroom. When work feels calmer than his marriage. When being alone is easier than being with his wife. That's the moment he understands. I'm losing myself. And no man is willing to lose his identity, his sanity, or his inner stability to preserve a broken marriage. Men don't walk away to chase freedom. They walk away to find themselves again, the final detachment. Before a man leaves physically, he leaves emotionally. He stops sharing, he stops arguing, he stops defending himself, he stops investing, he stops expecting change. His silence becomes the loudest warning sign, but by then it's usually too late. A man who has lost peace becomes a man who is mentally already gone. And when peace returns to his life after leaving, he realizes how deeply he had been suffering. That's why so many men finally walk away. Not for another woman, not for excitement, not for adventure, but simply for peace. Share your thoughts below. Have you ever felt more peaceful alone than in your own relationship? Chapter 4. When a man feels unloved, unseen, and emotionally starved, the core reason. Many men leave. There is a pain men rarely talk about, a pain deeper than disrespect, deeper than conflict, deeper than responsibility. It's the pain of feeling unloved, not the movie-style I love you type of love, but the real kind. Love that sees him, love that appreciates him, love that understands him, love that stands with him, love that chooses him every day. Because the truth is simple, men don't need perfection, but they need to feel wanted, valued, and important. And when a man no longer feels that from his wife, something inside him begins to die. The slow death of emotional connection. Most men enter marriage with a full heart. They love deeply, give fully, sacrifice quietly. They show love through protection, provision, effort, presence, and loyalty. But over time, many wives stop nurturing the emotional bond. Life gets busy, work becomes stressful, comfort replaces intentional effort, routine replaces romance, complaints replace appreciation, expectations replace gratitude. And suddenly, the man who once felt like her king now feels like her roommate. Not because he changed, but because the emotional connection faded and no one tried to rebuild it. Men are emotionally simple, but deeply emotional society lies by saying men don't need affection. That's false. A man needs kindness, softness, appreciation, a gentle touch, a loving tone, a woman who sees his effort, a partner who stands by him, a wife who admires the man he is becoming. These things energize him. They give him confidence. They keep him loyal. They make him want to give more. But when a man receives the opposite, coldness, criticism, indifference, lack of intimacy, being taken for granted, zero emotional connection, zero admiration, zero feminine warmth, he feels emotionally abandoned. The wound men hide. This is the wound men hide the most. I don't feel loved anymore. They don't say it out loud. They don't confess it to friends. They don't cry about it. They just go quiet. They detach. They retreat into themselves. They stop trying to be romantic because romance without response feels like humiliation. They stop opening up because every vulnerability they shared was ignored or minimized. And in his silence, a deep truth forms in his heart. She doesn't love me the way I love her. I'm alone in this marriage. My emotional needs don't matter. Intimacy is the lifeline of a man. Most men don't leave because of sex. They leave because of what the lack of intimacy represent. Rejection, disinterest, lack of attraction, emotional distance, feeling unappreciated, feeling undesirable. To a man, intimacy is not just physical, it is his emotional connection, his way of feeling loved and accepted. When that disappears, he doesn't just feel lonely, he feels invisible. When a man stops feeling loved, he stops feeling alive. A man can survive hardship, stress, and responsibility, but he cannot survive feeling unloved by the woman he loved the most. When he no longer feels chosen, when he no longer feels valued, when he no longer feels appreciated, when he no longer feels desired, when he no longer feels emotionally safe, he begins to emotionally shut down. And when that shutting down becomes permanent, the marriage is already over, even if the papers haven't been signed yet. The final realization. There comes a moment when a man looks at his wife and realizes, she loves the life I built, but she no longer loves me. That realization cuts deeper than any argument. It hits harder than any disrespect. It breaks a man from the inside out. And that's when he finally understands. Leaving is not betrayal. Leaving is survival. Leaving is the only way to stop feeling invisible, unwanted, and unloved. Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever loved someone so much, yet felt completely unseen in return? Chapter 5. When a man feels betrayed by broken trust, broken loyalty, and broken promises. Every marriage stands on one foundation deeper than love: trust. When trust breaks, a man doesn't just lose confidence in his wife, he loses confidence in the entire relationship, and sometimes in himself. And this is one of the most painful reasons many men walk away after years of marriage. They feel betrayed, not always by cheating, not always by a dramatic scandal. Often, the betrayal is quieter, more emotional, more psychological, and far more damaging. The betrayal. Most men never speak about men are loyal by nature. Not because they are perfect, but because they know the weight of loyalty. When a man commits, he commits with his whole soul. So betrayal hits him differently. Betrayal is when she exposes his weaknesses to others. Betrayal is when she disrespects him in front of family. Betrayal is when she shares his private struggles with friends. Betrayal is when she compares him to other men. Betrayal is when she emotionally checks out and leaves him fighting alone. Betrayal is when she uses his vulnerability as a weapon during arguments. Betrayal is when she promises to change, but never does. These wounds cut deeper than physical distance. They break a man's spirit because they attack the very thing he gave her, his trust. When loyalty is not returned. What destroys a man is not her imperfection, but her indifference. He stays loyal, he stays faithful, he protects the marriage, he provides stability, he gives everything he can. But when he sees, she doesn't defend him, she doesn't protect the relationship, she doesn't keep her word, she doesn't value his loyalty, she doesn't appreciate his sacrifices, she doesn't honor her role as his partner. He starts to realize a painful truth. He gave loyalty to someone who no longer values it, and nothing hurts a strong man more than giving his best to someone who treats it like nothing. The emotional pain a man hides. Men rarely express betrayal. Instead of crying or confronting, they internalize it. He becomes quieter. He becomes distant. He stops sharing his plans, his dreams, his fears. He builds emotional walls because he no longer feels safe. He disconnects because connection became dangerous. Women often mistake this silence as lack of love, but silence is a man's way of bleeding privately. When promises start to feel like lies, marriage isn't kept alive by big gestures, it's kept alive by daily trust. But when she says, "I'll stop disrespecting you," yet continues, "I'll stop hiding things," yet still does. "I'll be more loving," yet grows colder. "I'll be more feminine," but becomes harder. He starts feeling like every promise she makes is a performance. A man can survive disappointment, but he cannot survive false hope. Broken promises drain a man's soul more than arguments ever could. The final breaking point, when he can no longer trust her, there is a moment, quiet, cold, devastating, when a man looks at his wife and realizes, "I don't trust her anymore." Not because he hates her, not because he wants revenge, not because he wants someone else, but because trust was wounded too many times by lies, disrespect, manipulation, emotional betrayal, or neglect. And once a man loses trust, he loses the ability to stay present in the marriage. He may still live in the house, he may keep providing, he may pretend everything is fine, but emotionally, he has already left. And when a man leaves emotionally, leaving physically becomes only a matter of time. Men don't leave because they stop loving. Men leave because they can no longer trust. Trust is the backbone of loyalty. And when the backbone breaks, the relationship collapses. This is why so many men walk away, not because they wanted to, but because staying would mean betraying themselves. Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever stayed loyal to someone who slowly broke your trust over time? Chapter 6. When a man realizes he has lost himself in the marriage. This is the deepest, most heartbreaking reason many men walk away after years of marriage, a reason almost no one talks about, yet it destroys men from the inside out. He no longer recognizes the man he has become. Not because he changed for the better, but because he slowly died inside the relationship. The silent transformation. A man doesn't lose himself overnight. It happens slowly, quietly, bit by bit, year after year. At first he compromises to keep peace, then he sacrifices to keep the family stable, then he lowers his voice to avoid conflict, then he hides his feelings to avoid being mocked or dismissed. Then he stops doing things he enjoys because it causes arguments. Then he starts walking on eggshells just to keep the home calm. And before he knows it, he doesn't laugh the same. He doesn't dream the same. He doesn't move with confidence like he once did. He doesn't feel like the man he used to be. The relationship drained him more than life ever did. The lost identity men enter marriage strong, focused, ambitious, clear about who they are. But what happens when the marriage becomes emotionally taxing, disrespectful, draining, one-sided, chaotic, stressful, loveless? He begins to shrink. He becomes smaller, quieter, less alive. He stops being the confident man she fell in love with, because the environment she created destroyed that confidence. He stops being playful because joy became a battlefield. He stops being expressive because vulnerability became an attack point. He stops being romantic because romance became unreciprocated. He stops being himself because being himself was never enough. The internal battle. There is a war every man fights alone. Do I stay and keep losing myself? Or do I leave and try to find myself again? A man will sacrifice anything for the people he loves, but he cannot sacrifice his entire identity. When a man feels he has lost his confidence, his masculinity, his peace, his purpose, his happiness, his ambition, his emotional balance, his self-respect, then staying becomes more painful than leaving. Self-respect, the final line. Men will not cross. A healthy marriage should build a man up, but a toxic marriage breaks him down. And every man has a silent limit, a point where he says, I can't live like this anymore. This is not weakness. This is not selfishness. This is self-respect. The moment a man realizes he has been disrespected too long, unappreciated too long, ignored too long, emotionally drained too long, overlooked too long, taken for granted too long, he understands something life-changing. If I don't protect myself, no one else will. The awakening. Then comes the awakening, a quiet but powerful shift inside him. He starts thinking clearly. He starts remembering who he was before the marriage drained him. He starts rebuilding his strength mentally. He starts valuing his peace again. He starts seeing life outside the marriage. He starts imagining happiness he hasn't felt in years. And when a man starts imagining a life where he is himself again, the marriage is already over, emotionally. The decision to walk away. Men don't leave to hurt anyone. They don't leave to replace their wife. They don't leave because they failed. They leave because they want to live again. They want to breathe again. They want peace again. They want to rediscover themselves again. They want to be the man they lost in the process of trying to save a relationship that slowly destroyed who they were. A man leaving a long marriage is not a man giving up. It's a man choosing himself for the first time in a very, very long time. Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever felt like you lost yourself inside a relationship and had to rebuild who you are? A powerful message to men who have loved, sacrificed, and survived. Gentlemen, listen closely. Marriage is meant to be a partnership, a union of two souls, two hearts, two lives moving forward together. It is meant to nurture, to challenge, and to grow both people. But life is rarely perfect. And sometimes, despite your loyalty, your patience, your sacrifices, your strength, you end up in a marriage that drains you, disrespects you, ignores you, and slowly steals pieces of your soul. This is the reality most men hide. Most men endure silently. Most men feel trapped. Most men wonder if leaving makes them weak, or selfish, or failures. Let me tell you the truth. Leaving is not weakness. Leaving is self-preservation. Leaving is the ultimate act of courage when your dignity, peace, and identity have been eroded for too long. You've given and given and given, and when the love, respect, and partnership you deserve aren't returned, staying doesn't honor love, it dishonors you. Every strong man has limits. Every patient man reaches a breaking point. Every loyal man deserves reciprocity. If you're a man watching this, hear me clearly. Respect is non-negotiable. Peace in your home is essential. Emotional connection is vital. Loyalty must be met with loyalty. Trust must be preserved, not broken. Your identity is sacred. When these 6 pillars crumble repeatedly, no man stays out of selfishness. He leaves because he values himself enough to walk away from what is destroying him. This is not about hating women. This is not about avoiding responsibility. This is about honoring the man you are meant to be, a man who protects, a man who provides, a man who loves fully, but never at the expense of losing himself. If you've recognized any of these truths in your own life, if you've felt unappreciated, disrespected, ignored, or emotionally drained, then take a deep breath and remember, your life is your responsibility. Your peace is your right. Your identity is non-negotiable. A strong man never loses himself completely. He may endure, he may suffer, but he always finds a way back to who he truly is. And that, gentlemen, is the final lesson. You can love deeply. You can sacrifice fully. You can commit endlessly. But if your marriage slowly kills your peace, your respect, and your soul, walking away is not defeat. It is liberation. It is wisdom. It is the ultimate act of courage. If this message resonates, drop your thoughts below. Share your experiences, your lessons, or even your own story of survival. And remember to like, share, and subscribe so more men can reclaim their strength, peace, and life.